Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything from the Pistons, the NBA draft, and the Motor City Cruise.
And Blake, we're finally coming to the end here of kind of the sports desert. I know it's not NBA basketball that's coming back yet. I think we're still a few weeks out from training camp and the preseason really getting going. But this week, tonight actually, as we record this podcast, there will be an NFL football game on. So my question to you is, how's your fantasy team looking?
Oh man, it's looking okay. I mean, you never know. I feel like maybe not everyone, but most of the time, once you're done with the draft, you're just like, all right, my team's pretty all right. And then week 1, week 2, injuries, like different roles going on. But I'm pretty happy with my team. That said, hopelessly optimistic. I was drafting in the second pick, and
Nice.
Christian McCaffrey fell to me, so I couldn't be upset with that. I had him last year too. He helped me to the championship game where I didn't win, but I still had a good team, so I can't complain with that finish. How's your team looking for this year?
I've got 1.5 teams basically. There's a group that I have my own team on, and then I'm kind of like a consultant for my wife's fantasy team in her family league. She does almost all of it. All right. So I do not run that team for her, but I help out here and there when she's got questions and stuff. She actually won the league last year, which was pretty hard. I think she's only been in it 4 years. 1 year she was a runner-up, and then now she was just the championship. Like her fantasy football success is way beyond what I have achieved in my life playing it. But on my own personal league, yeah, I think it turned out okay. I don't know. I think it's a lot of fun just to not have to think about the game when I'm watching it or when I'm doing all these fantasy football drafts. Like with the NFL, I know Lions and nothing else. If I know anything else, it's because of, growing up playing those old Madden football games, which is not all that helpful anymore today. I don't play the new ones. So I'm very much just a starry-eyed fan with football, especially with the Lions. And so it just makes it fun to, I don't know, you're drafted in the 12th round of your fantasy football draft. I have no idea who these players are, but I refuse to let the computer pick for me, because if I screw up, I want it to be my fault.
It's fun. It's fun. Yeah, excited for football to kick off. Like Derek Brown says in the chat, that means we only have 6 more weeks till Pistons basketball, which I love football, but obviously we wouldn't be here if we weren't basketball people. So looking forward to that. Before we move on to basketball, I have 2 questions for you. One, do you have any Lions on your fantasy team?
I do. I got Sam Laporta, which I was pretty pumped about. First tight end off the board. Maybe that's an overdraft. I don't know. But I was pretty pumped to get Sam Laporta. And then with my final pick, I grabbed Jake Bates. Why?
There we go.
I don't know. I just wanted another Lion, and the stars didn't align in any of the other rounds. So I did pass up on some other good kickers. But you know what? Screw it. One pride. Let's go.
There you go. I asked because I realized I'm in like 2.5 leagues. A team I split with an old coworker, and then my friends from home and my friends from college. And I realized today I didn't end up with a single Lion on any of my teams. And I feel like just drafting with a lot of Michigan people, they get snatched up early, but what can you do? But my other question was, have you seen the Dan Campbell Applebee's commercials that have went viral on Twitter?
I have, and I have to say the most recent one was extremely funny. Him, especially looking at the wall with Employee of the Month and trash talking about it. I lost it. That was really good.
Yeah, it was great. And I saw clips, like some of the Lions writers tweeted out when they asked him about it, and he was like, unfortunately, there's more to come, which is probably the one commercial that was released today as we're recording on Thursday. But I was pretty impressed with his acting chops, and hey, I hope Dan got a decent bag for that. I'm sure that's why he did it, but provided us all with some enjoyment.
I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't even think he was acting. It just looked
It's
like
just
the Dan
him.
Campbell I've seen on press conferences, and that's what made it all the more funny. Like that, yeah, I could just see that guy trash talking probably 25-year-old assistant manager for employee of the month if he worked at an Applebee's. Yeah, absolutely. That just made sense. Just made sense. It was really well done.
Of course, he's a heck of a personality. I'm sure for like he has to be a heck of a coach to cover just like the energy and everything. I mean, love what he's done. Really happy. I know the first season and a half was a little rough, but man, like he and Brad Holmes too have the Lions in a great spot. So I'm excited to watch them play again.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the fun part for me with the Lions is that I never played football, so I really don't know what I'm watching. I can just kind of turn the
Yeah.
brain off and enjoy the show. It's much more of a legitimate like spectator experience where even if I wasn't doing this stuff with all the podcasts for the Pistons, I'd still be watching it the same way, which is through that lens of a player and former coach where I'm just trying to pick apart everything that happens. So it's actually much more relaxing to watch the Lions for me than it is the Pistons, even with the Pistons being bad.
That's funny because I feel like 99.9% of Lions fans would say that watching their games is not a relaxing experience. So, hey,
It's the relaxing for the mind. Is what it
yeah.
is. Emotionally, maybe not. Maybe not.
Oh man, but yeah, go Lions. We have the first game tonight of the NFL season, Ravens and Chiefs. I guess I have to pick the Chiefs for our guy Bryce. He's him and his family big Chiefs fans, so hope he gets the win there, but man, maybe we get a Chiefs Lions Super Bowl. That would be fun.
That'd be fun. I think Bryce would. I don't know if he has any hair left growing, he'd pull it out. If that were to
His
happen, he'd be
beard.
so stressed. His beard, yeah, he'd pull the beard out. YouTube user says that he bets I yell at the TV when the refs make a terrible call against the Lions. I used to, I did, I used to. YouTube user. Now though, with our man Dan Campbell leading the show, I just think they're going to get it back. I don't care as much anymore. It's more speechless. Oh come on, and then they go score anyway, and I'm cool with it. And I don't care after that. It used to be worse, though. It did. It used to be worse. Oddly enough, on football, I did throw out a pretty delusional but fun Lions take on Twitter today, just because I had some time this morning.
Oh yeah, I saw you posting
Uh,
some stats that I did not know how to comprehend.
Well, and I think it was Avid Sports Reader on Twitter. He made me go ahead and actually look up and adjust passing yards for passing yard inflation, which was really funny. And I went and did it, and it was interesting to see. So I had a good time with that. But the comparison was just Jared Goff to Peyton Manning because I'm a delusional Lions fan, and you know what? I'm gonna stand by it. It was fun, and it was closer than you think. So I had a good time this morning.
I
Go
love it.
Lions!
No, I like Jared Goff too. I mean, when they the Stafford trade, like I did not think Goff was the long term solution. And I mean, I know he's not like it's not like the Lions have C.J. Stroud or anyone like that, but they have one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. Not a running guy or anything like that, but I think that trade worked out as best as it could for both teams. I mean, the Rams got a Super Bowl. The Lions still need to get that done, but treasure trove of picks, Jared Goff, can't complain.
All right, so if any like national aggregator is looking for an example of the excitement around Michigan for the Lions, you can just cite how this Pistons podcast spent about 10 minutes talking about Detroit football. They don't even play today. We're just excited for Sunday night, week one. I do have a question for you, though, transitioning to our Pistons segment for the rest of this show. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. If you're Lions fans, hope you're excited too. If you're not, come on, get on the bandwagon already. We kind of talked about this earlier in the week. We want to go through like one kind of weird, off the cuff, but functional lineup that you can create with this team that one, like I said, functional. So you can't just trot out all the non-shooters and say, well, yeah, they're all athletes. It'll be fun to watch. That's not what we're doing here. We're trying to make a lineup that makes some sense, but it's just a little bit out there and then kind of describe how it could be used. So I've got one prep, but if you want to go first, I will cede the floor to you.
Yep. I cheated a bit. I've two, but these lineups are something I think could be used in very niche situations. I was thinking about it. First, like, where my mind went was, what's just like the best possible shooting lineup you can put around Cade Cunningham, because we know he needs spacing. And I was like, well, okay, this is what I think it is, but I don't think this lineup is sustainable for long periods of time. So I went with it, shooting lineup where if you have the ball and you're looking for a game winning shot with like 5-10 seconds left, like, who do you want out there? And then inversely to that, if you need to get a stop before you get the ball back, like, what's the best defensive lineup that you can put out there just to get a stop on one possession? When you get the ball back, you call timeout and sub in your guys. So here's what I have. I'll start on the defensive end, and this is just who I want in the game when we need to go and get a stop. I have Cade, which isn't a good start, but I think you just need Cade on the floor at all times, especially in those clutch scenarios. Then I have Asar, and this is the one I want you to challenge me on because I was debating it. Fontecchio, just because I think he can be average enough and cover you somewhere, but there's other people you could put in. And then in the front court, I put Isaiah Stewart and Paul Reed. So before I go into who I would want on the floor for a final shot, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Well, one, I love this. That's like a legitimate offense defense switch lineup, not just like a couple of guys rotate in and out. So I think this is really cool. As far as Fontecchio, I assume the alternative would have been Ron Holland.
That's who I thought about.
So I think I'd lean the same way you did. I like Ron Holland's potential, especially on defense, a lot, and I think he'll be solid in year one. But he looks to me like much more of a point of attack kind of defender right away. I know in the G League it was kind of those off-ball steals that he was able to get that look so enticing. And I do think that eventually that's going to translate. I think he has more potential in that free safety kind of role than at the point of attack. However, he got beat backdoor a lot in the G League, and he's so young. That just kind of comes with the territory. And if you need a stop, you cannot afford someone to fall asleep off the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Fontecchio, as unspectacular as a defender as he is solid. He has size. He can move pretty well. He can navigate through screens well enough. And you definitely don't, as a defender anyway, I'm far more comfortable with him on the wing than at kind of that power position if another team is playing someone with some strength. Because we saw that a couple times, specifically with Rui Hachimura out of LA, where you can just kind of bury Fontecchio in the rim if you have more bulk to you than he does. So for just the solid predictability of it, I agree with you. I think if I'm going an all defense lineup, I would have Fontecchio out there on the wing and protect him with Isaiah Stewart right next to him.
Yeah, and I think you want Holland to grow there over time, just so, like, you want him to be on the floor in those situations, and he could grow into that defender where you would trust him there. But I agree with you. I mean, could be a little ball watchy at times, and Fontecchio, I think he has the basketball IQ to be in the right spot and everything, not lose his assignment. So I don't think he's a great defender by any means, but I think he can at least stay afloat and do some good things in that scenario.
Real quick, Blake, so just to build on that, with the situation you outlined, it's one stop.
Yes,
Right?
literally
And
like
Al Blues is one
possession.
stop. Yeah. He says, "What's up?" So sorry to cut you off, but yeah, so one stop. That's all you need. You don't need like a high upside kind of play here. You don't need a guy that's taking risks to try and get a steal in a passing lane here. What you need is guys that are predictable and solid. Your upside, to create a turnovers coming out of Asar Thompson and Isaiah Stewart as kind of a shot blocker. Asar Thompson's really your best option for that kind of thing. Over a longer period of time, I could see the argument for trying to go for those big plays, and therefore you might want Ron Holland. But for one possession, like you said, not give me Fontecchio. I know what I'm getting out of him. There's less variability.
Yeah, and YouTube users said that 5 isn't
Yeah,
ridiculous on offense for a possession or two. I agree with that, and that transitioned into what I wanted to do on the other end, where we call a timeout, we draw something up to try and get a bucket at the end. Obviously, wanted to add more shooting into that, but really all I did to change that 5 was sub out Asar and Paul Reed for Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris. I left Stu in there just to have another corner threat if you need a 3. Interested to see if you think maybe it would be more beneficial to have like a lob threat like Jalen Duren to drive if you only need a 2 or looking to tie the game or whatever it is. But in that scenario where there's 5, 10, 12 seconds left and I'm trying to have some shooters out there, have Cade out there to try and go and tie the game, send it to overtime, or get a game winning bucket. My 5 would be Cade, Malik Beasley, Fontecchio, Tobias, and Isaiah Stewart.
it's a good question there with Isaiah Stewart if you'd rather have the lob threat or not. Because we did
It
see
depends on the
in
situation, honestly.
mhm. Well, it does, yeah, and we saw in Cade's rookie year, right, that he did struggle with guys like Stewart and Kelly Olynyk as his only pick and roll partner options.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you really just if you need a bucket, even if that bucket's a 3, a very consistent and simple way to start the action is to give Cade a screen. Now that could be a pick and pop, and Stewart got a lot better at that. Man, I don't know. That is a really tough call. I agree with everything else in that lineup. Again, I think with Cade just spacing the crap out of the floor with Malik Beasley, Fontecchio, and Tobias Harris. Plus, there's some ball handling there. Malik Beasley's no slouch; he can make something happen. We saw Fontecchio be pretty proficient off handoffs, and then not Isaiah Stewart, Tobias Harris is a pretty good catch and go type of guy already. So it's really just if you want or would rather have the lob threat of Jalen Duren and sacrifice the floor spacing just a little bit, or the spacing with Isaiah Stewart. You know what? I'm agreeing with you again though, because at the end of the day, I think Cade's probably taking the shot.
You
And
want him
I want to
to.
give, yeah, you want
He
Cade to
might
take the
not,
shot.
but you want him to.
Right. And if you want him to take the shot, you want as much space possible for him to probe and operate. And so I think the extra spacing of that floor spacing 5, letting you go 5 out, I think I'm going to lean that way just to give my guy a better shot in ISO.
Yeah, and it's also obviously dependent on the night. Like if Tim Hardaway Jr. Made a few threes, like went off for 20, like you're probably gonna have him on the floor too. You can say the same thing for Jaden Ivey, or even if like Marcus Sasser gets some minutes here and there and catches fire, like you might have those guys in too. But I just think roster wise, like that's where my 5 would be at in the situation.
Yeah, I agree. So I only had one. I'll just lay it out real quick. This is just we're going to sprint. We're just going to run and we're going to see what happens. Try to create some havoc on defense and then just go get some buckets in the fast break. The lineup is Jaden Ivey at the point guard, flanked by Malik Beasley, Ron Holland, Tobias Harris, and a little drum roll, Asar Thompson at the 5. I think you could have a lot of fun in situational spots, very specific context with Asar Thompson at the 5, especially if you're going to have this athletic of a lineup around it. So thoughts on that? Any part of it? Spacing kind of sort of concern ish, but man, are you fast?
Well, yeah, when you texted me about this a couple days ago, and my first thought was, what can we do to get Ron Holland and Asar Thompson on the floor together just because, I mean, they can jump out the gym, make things happen on defense, get out quick in transition. So, yeah, I think it would be super fun. I mean, I think we'll see a lot of different lineup combinations with this team, especially as they're figuring things out. It'll be interesting to see what those combinations are when Cade is off the floor. So I think this one is a bit realistic. It's just like, are there going to be actual situations where you don't have one of Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, or Paul Reed on the floor? Right now, I lean towards no, but if you like, if it if you want to have fun, like you would put out a lineup like that, which as a person who's watching the game, like as a fan and to have fun, I would love to see that, but I don't know if JB Bickerstaff would see it the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's going to do it, JB Bickerstaff, that is going to like trot out Asar at the five or not. But here's my pitch. And oddly enough, I think it's far more valuable in situations against bigs that you really can't stop anyway. So think like Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, these types of guys where it doesn't matter if you throw Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren, Paul Reed at them, they're going to get their buckets. All right. They're just that good. They're that big. You don't have an ability to match. Almost nobody has the ability to match unless you have Bam Adebayo on your team, right? So in those situations, make them run. Like make them chase the Star Thompson out on the fast break. You cannot switch Joel Embiid on any of Jaden Ivey, Malik Beasley, Ron Holland, Tobias Harris, or a Star Thompson. There is nowhere to hide him. You are playing a fast-paced five out, and you're going to make him run or sit on the bench. And all you're going to ask a Star Thompson to do is get in the way as best as you can, maybe block a fadeaway jump shot here and there. And that's it. That's all you need out of him defensively. Because again, you're not stopping Joel Embiid. Nobody is. He's going to get his buckets no matter what. Does this make it slightly easier for him to get his buckets? Maybe, but how tired is he going to be? Right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
factor here. That's a big dude. If you get him running, you get him moving, sprinting up and down the court, sprinting around in the half court, like it could just get really interesting, I think. So it's kind of a counter to these unstoppable forces at the five, and there are only, two or three of them that I can think of. Maybe you just run a Asar Thompson out there with a small lineup like Golden State used to do. I mean, this was Draymond Green could probably hold his own a little bit better in the post than Asar Thompson can. Not probably, he definitely could. But at the same time, the big value was how fast they could run on offense and what that would do to the opposing big. I think you could get pretty close with that to that with Asar Thompson at the five. Situational.
Yeah. And I'll say what I would like to is I'd like to see that lineup if you are going to run it in spurts at any time, depending on the matchup or whatever happens. Like, I'd like to see Cade out there too instead of Ivy, just to give you a little bit more of that like playmaking oomph.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
if you have Ron Holland and Asar out there, like you want them running to the rim, making things happen off cuts. And I think Cade can make things happen for them, put the ball in right spots better than Jaden Ivey can. But I mean, you also could play Cade with Ivy and take out Malik Beasley. That definitely hurts the spacing a little bit. But I think there's different things you can do if you want to put Ron Holland and Asar out there on the floor together, which I mean, if they're both coming off the bench, I feel like you're going to have to see that at some point. So I'm interested to see what lineup would be put around them if they are spending minutes on the floor together.
Well, truthfully, I think there's a really easy way to do it, and that's just to have Jaden Ivey, Malik Beasley, Ron Holland, Asar Thompson, and then Isaiah Stewart. There's enough spacing
Hmm.
there. Honestly, I'm kind of expecting that to be the like if you put out a five-man bench unit, that's pretty much what it's going to be, unless you want Cade running with the backups. There's the backup point guard every now and then. I'm kind of expecting that honestly. I mean, I do not believe Ron Holland is so bad a shooter that you cannot play him with Asar Thompson, as Asar Thompson is a such a bad shooter that you would be uncomfortable playing him next to Jalen Duren, right? Like these are
Yeah.
not quite the same. Ron Holland has not only more potential as a shooter, but he's also shot better from the NBA line against better competition than Asar Thompson has. So I'm just a little bit more comfortable with it there. Summer League notwithstanding, neither of them shot well there. It was kind of equally bad. So we'll see if that's how it shakes out or not. But at least like on paper right now, yeah, I think that's a pretty solid bench five. You're not going to see it for a ton of minutes. I would bet that they stagger a lot of these guys more often than they don't. But if you had to put out a 5-man unit, it's probably the most simple one, right? You got your stretch five, you got Malik Beasley, who's an insane shooter, and then Jaden Ivey or Cade Cunningham, which are both at or above league average.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, the question to me is like, are are you if you're prioritizing a SAR higher than anyone on this roster other than Cade Cunningham, do you play him it with the starting group alongside Jalen Duren just because of that? I don't think either of us think that should happen, but it's just like it going to, at least at certain times, and then that really puts you in a situation where you have to put extreme shooting around them. But I think if you separate and have one of Asar or Duran on or off, there's different combinations that you can make that make things a little more seamless than when you're playing those two alongside each other.
Yeah, and I think for the prioritization thing and that side of the argument, you and I agree. You really should not have those two being Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren out on the floor, ideally at all. It'll probably happen a little bit, so you hope to minimize that. But I think even if you are prioritizing Asar Thompson second on the roster, right, just behind Cade, like you're pretty confident that that's a guy you're going to build around with Cade Cunningham. I think there's still a good argument to bringing him off the bench right now only because Jalen Duren is on a shorter time span for his contract extension. You need to figure out what you're going to do with Jalen Duren much quicker than you do with Asar Thompson. And if you're that confident in Asar Thompson, you've got nothing to figure out. You can just slow play it, try to get him in very specialized lineups so that all his minutes are very positive, and you set him up really well for a strong, extremely strong year three jump, right? Whereas Jalen Duren, this is year three. This is the put up or shut up time. We need to know what he's going to be, what he's got, and whether maybe you trade him, maybe you extend him, right? Those are kind of the two options. So, I mean, I'm on record. I would prioritize Asar Thompson ahead of Jalen Duren, but I don't think that that means you have to start him either at the expense of Jalen Duren or with Jalen Duren. I'll let you respond to that. And then we actually have a question that kind of gets right to the heart of this that I'll play right after your response.
Yeah, I mean, if you are bringing SR off the bench and he's still getting like 25 to 30 minutes a game, really I really don't think that's an issue, which I think is very doable for him, and hopefully that is what we see, and he could be almost like a six starter kind of role, whether
Yeah.
depending on what the starting lineup looks like. That role could be him, it could be Jaden Ivey, it could be Isaiah Stewart. We don't really know, but I think there's a path to minutes for a lot of the young guys that we're still trying to figure out, and the team is trying to figure out what to do with them in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so this is a voicemail from our guy Josh from South Dakota, talking about Asar Thompson potentially starting and what that might mean for that center position.
Hey, it's Josh from South Dakota again. My question this week is, what do you guys think about starting Stu at center so that Asar can also start? Because we all know Asar and Duren can't start together. I'm also not convinced that the rebounding or team defense would be any worse with Stu starting at the 5. because Asar and Tobias are pretty good rebounders for their position. So is Cade. The upside of having Asar on the court defensively, guarding everybody, roaming, shutting down the best offensive player, would be worth whatever perceived downgrade there is going from Duren to Stu. The only downside of this lineup, in my eyes, would be losing Duren as a pick and roll partner with Cade. But I think having Stu in the corner and Asar working in the short roll might help out the offense more, along with having better driving lanes for the guards. Thanks for taking my call. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you.
All right, Blake. So starting Isaiah Stewart at the 5 so that you can make sure Asar Thompson's starting. Well, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I just am not sure if where the team is now, they would move Jalen Duren out of the starting lineup just for the sake of putting Asar in. Like, I feel like, and it's not what we think we should see, but I think if you want to start Asar, like you might, like JB might end up starting Asar and keeping Duren in there, which we know isn't ideal for
Don't
the
put
space.
that evil on me,
Yeah,
Blake.
I know. But it not ideal for the spacing, but yeah, like what Josh outlines, I think is an easy solve for putting Asar into the starting lineup alongside Cade and the rest of the group. It's just like Stewart is entering year 5, I believe. Like, do we know what he is now? And is like we think the best or the role for him is a backup 5 that brings energy, plays defense, can stretch the floor a little bit. So like Wes, what you said, is it more important to see what you have with Jalen Duren, see hopefully those strides that we're hoping to see on defense specifically? But yeah, in an ideal world, I think if you just put Stu into the starting lineup, if you're sliding Asar in there, I think that helps resolve a lot of your spacing concerns. It doesn't make it perfect. And like what Josh brought up, not losing a ton rebounding, I would definitely say Jalen Duren is the best rebounder of the 3, but he's right. Isaiah Stewart is still a good rebounder, not as good as Jalen Duren, but Asar is also a very good rebounder for his position. So I think they could help tackle that a little bit as a team. So yeah, like it helps defensively, it helps spacing the floor, which is some of like the biggest issues that we have been seeing with this team, and we want to see them take a stride in next year. I don't know. I've almost like put Jalen Duren in pen into the starting lineup, which is why I struggle with seeing this actually happening. But in theory, I think it's a great idea. I am going to jump into our next question a little bit, and then we will go back once Wes is back on. We got this one from Chaz Malibu in the DBB comments. Why did Trajan Langdon choose to sit on his JT Thor money and let the Cavs beat him to the punch? So JT Thor signed a 2-way contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers after after being on the free agent market for a while. I am interested to see what Langdon does with the rest of his cap space. Sorry, Wes, I was just tackling this question while you jump back in. But yeah, I mean, JT Thor showed some flashes when he played with the South Sudan team. I just feel like there wasn't much of a market for him, and maybe the Pistons could use him, want to take a flyer on him. But overall, I think Langdon was trying to hold on to that flexibility and what he can do with the rest of the money left over, as well as maybe keeping a roster spot open, which I'm assuming is why we haven't seen an additional move being made yet. And Wes, I will throw it back to you to go back to whether Beef Stew should be in the starting lineup if you want to slide Asar in there. You are back. You are back, my friend. Hey, before we move on, do you have any JT Thor thoughts?
All right, first, let's just make sure. Is the audio working? All right, that is fantastic. I do not have any JT Thor thoughts. I'm glad that Chaz Malibu can still watch JT Thor with the Cavs on that two-way contract, but I do not have much thoughts in the way of JT Thor.
Now he's gonna like kill the Pistons because he's in the same
Oh, sure,
division
yeah.
or something because we said that.
Wasn't he actually technically picked with the Pistons pick that got traded away for like Dervitas Servitas or something like that?
He was.
Wasn't that how they went down?
That is a great memory. And I think if anyone wants to keep track of that for this year, I think Cam Spencer from UConn was used with a Pistons pick and then ended up in Memphis. So just earmark that one if like Cam Spencer turns into a dog in the NBA or something.
Yeah. Well, so I guess that's my one JT Thor thought. He clearly turned out better than Dervitas Servitas because he is still kicking the can around in the NBA, where good old Dave is, I think, back overseas.
And I'm sure he's going to have a good career for himself. I think I forgot where he signed, but I think he signed with a pretty good international team.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's enough niche Pistons lore there.
But yeah, let's we'll jump back to Isaiah Stewart. I was just about to say that I think I'm more open to it than you are, but at the same time, I'm not leaning that way. So the question's framed in kind of like a winning games sort of way. At least that's how I heard it, how I'm reading it. And so from that perspective, it's really a trade-off, right? You're getting a Star Thompson's perimeter defense and ability to really impact the opposing team's best wing or guard player. And then you're trading off Jalen Duren as a pick and roll partner for Cade Cunningham. I agree with Josh. I don't think that the rebounding drop off is all that significant. In fact, you might be able to make an argument that it's more beneficial to not have Duren on the floor so that Cade, Asar, Jaden Ivey, and Fontecchio, Harris, whoever, all can get more rebounds and then just start dribbling up the floor right away instead of looking for an outlet pass. There's an argument to be had there. I'm not going to make it now, but it's at least interesting to think about. But as far as winning games right now goes, the Pistons just don't have a lot of good to great defenders. And so while having Asar Thompson out there at the starting lineup playing big minutes with the starters in that way, it would be really helpful. But at the same time, Jalen Duren helps unlock a strength for Cade Cunningham by being that lob threat pick and roll partner. And we've seen with Cade how he can struggle if he doesn't have that option. So I think the overall benefit of adding to a strength of this team, which would be the offensive side of the ball, by having Jalen Duren out there with Cade, kind of outweighs the benefit that you're going to get from adding Asar to a lineup that's honestly going to be bad at defense no matter what.
Yeah, I think what I'm thinking is so Jalen Duren is clearly the best pick and roll partner in this scenario, but does what Asar brings, being able to finish at the rim and almost being a lob threat, whether it's from the dunker spot or wherever, does that help offset a bit what you bring in having a better defender in Asar and also better floor spacing? Well, maybe not better spacing because you still have Asar out there, but having Stewart out there to help stretch the floor from the 5 spot.
I'd like it to. We just haven't seen that out of Asar Thompson yet. We've seen a little bit his rookie year in the short roll, not so much as a pick and roll proper sort of threat. I think he's got the talent. I think he's plenty athletic to do it, especially if he's put on some strength where his screens could be a little bit more powerful. Like, I think all the tools are definitely there. We just haven't seen it. And yeah, it's definitely possible that he and Cade have been working all offseason on pick and roll so that they get that kind of chemistry. And Cade, to his own credit, is a talented enough ball handler in the pick and roll where it really doesn't take a lot for him to get that chemistry. I mean, we saw him pick it up with Marvin Bagley extremely quickly. We saw him pick it up with James Wiseman really quickly too. So, like, I'm not too worried about it. I think that's something he can do. It's just bird in the hand. I know for sure Jalen Duren can. So that's where I'm leaning at the moment.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of what do you want out there? Like,
Yeah,
where are you willing to give in order to get something else? Like, what are you prioritizing? I think both options have their pros and cons, but then like you were talking about earlier, based on the matchup, like it could depend a little bit on that too. So we'll uh we'll see how it shakes out. I feel like the starting lineup is always such a point of debate every offseason,
yeah.
and I can't tell if it's recency bias or not, but I'm really excited to see what it is this off season or coming into the new season, because I think we have a few spots that you can pretty much count on, but how you round it out is going to be really interesting to me.
Yeah, agreed. And especially because there are still a lot of these types of trade-offs on this roster. To be
Mhm.
clear, it's a lot better than the trade-offs we saw on the roster last offseason. Okay. I'm not saying that these are equivalent.
You don't
Last
want
offseason was
Killian Hayes
far
out
more
there?
extreme. Oh Lord, no, I'm happy we're done with that period. I wish him well with the Wizards
Me
can't
too.
field, but
Nuts.
but anyway,
Sorry, shout out
I'm
to
just
Killian Hayes.
shout out to Killian Hayes. Shout out to Killian Hayes for sure. For sure. Rooting for the guy. Rooting for the guy. But this team still has a lot of trade-offs because they're still not going to be a great team. There's just less of them, so it's nice to see that improvement.
Mhm.
Still makes it extremely intriguing what Bickerstaff is going to do. Let's get to this one. This was kind of interesting. It's from Sparma. So continuing to talk about the bigs, wants to know if we have any information on what percentage of Jalen Duren's offensive rebounds are coming from his own misses. And for a little context here to all of our listeners, this is kind of building off of an analysis. I can't remember the person's name, unfortunately, and I apologize,
I
but
think it
did
was Steph. It's either Steven or Stefan No who works with the Sporting News.
okay, perfect. So they did a very interesting piece looking at Angel Reese in the WNBA and the amount of her rebounds on the season that are coming from her own misses. So that's kind of the context behind it. But he's asking about Jalen Duren here.
Yeah, and I was actually curious about this too because I figured there might be a way or some stat website or person that tracks this type of information, but neither me or Wes think there is.
Nope, couldn't find it.
Yeah, so if you know of a resource that does track the percentage of offensive rebounds that are based on your own miss, let us know. Would definitely be really interested in that. But I pulled some stats from Cleaning the Glass on offensive rebounding percentage, which is simply the percentage of a team's missed shots that the player rebounds. Jalen Duren last year was in the 75th percentile amongst bigs. His rookie year, he was in the 92nd percentile amongst bigs. So clearly a pretty elite offensive rebounder. Also, if you just do that based on free throws, missed free throws that the player rebounds, he was in the 89th percentile amongst bigs last season, 93rd in his rookie year. So pretty good across the board. Assuming a decent amount of those outside of the free throws are off of your own shots, but especially with all the discourse around Angel Reese, like what Stephen No's research found was it, yes, a lot of her rebounds are off her own missed shots. But if you take all those away, she would still lead the league in rebounding. And also, just like basketball wise, I see on Twitter all the time the screenshots that are posted of Angel Reese offensive rebound, Angel Reese miss layup, Angel Reese offensive rebound, miss layup in a sequence. But when you're watching the game, like more often than not, what that play ends up resulting in is a made shot by her, or she gets fouled, or maybe she kicks it out for an assist. So, like, getting the rebound, no matter if you miss the shot or not, is an important skill to have. Like, looking at Reese, no one can really stop her at it. And Jalen Duren is a little bit in the same light. So, it, I get the critique. Like, both of them need to improve around the rim. So hopefully there aren't as many missed shots that they have to grab. But the fact that they're still doing that is great. And I'd love to see numbers around it with Duren. If anyone ever wants to go look in that, I think it would be very manual. So I don't expect anyone to do that. But across the board, we still know he's a pretty elite offensive rebounder, and those stats carry over on the defensive end too. Like last year, he was 97th percentile amongst bigs in just defensive rebounding. So over it, we want to see them improve around the rim, but as long as they're getting their own rebound, I would see that as a good thing as opposed to just like knocking them all the time, because hopefully the touch around the rim grows eventually.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. It's definitely more of a good thing than it is a bad thing. And I understand why this type of stat gets brought up a lot. It was brought up a lot for Andre Drummond as well.
Mm-hmm.
What I've never really quite understood is why some people actually think that this is important. Because what this stat would be getting at, and what those that are using it to really critique these players are using it for, are kind of that volleyball thing that we do see, people like Jalen Duren, Angel Reese, Andre Drummond, and many, many other bigs in probably the WNBA too. I wouldn't really know about that, but definitely in the NBA do that a lot, where it's kind of tip, 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 tip until, and those all count as rebounds, right? We saw a bunch with Andre Drummond. But the thing is, this stat doesn't get to that. This stat is just how many of your own misses are you rebounding. And I would wager a guess that the majority of those rebounds off your own miss do not end in a shot by the big. I would hazard to guess that more often than not, when a big gets a rebound off of one of their own miss, they are not in a fantastic position to put the ball right back up, and instead you get a kick out and a reset. That is still undeniably a positive for the offense. You are getting an additional possession after a missed shot. That's just a miss. That's just an offensive rebound. That's all that is. It's not really special in any way. What would make this special and would actually get to the critique that this is usually used at would be to get a percentage of this percentage that results in a shot again by that player. So, how many shots are coming from a rebound off of your own miss? And if that number's high, I could understand the critique, because now we are seeing that Moses Malone thing, the little volleyball back and forth, and you're seeing it a lot. Almost anytime you'd get an offensive rebound off your own miss, if the percentage is high, is what that would be telling you. But that's not what this number says, and this number is still a positive to me. So I don't really get it. I don't understand it.
Yeah, and Jalen Duren was a bit above average in terms of his field goal percentage at the rim amongst bigs. He shot 73% last year, 72% at the rim in his rookie season. So, yeah, and the one good thing about Jalen Duren too is, Wes, you mentioned it often leads to a kick out or a reset. Oftentimes the defense is crashing the glass, and then there's even more space to make something happen. And
Right? How about assists off of miss rebound, off
yeah,
of rebound off your own miss? Right? How about that?
hey, I think we have a business if we want to start tracking this, and L Blouses in the chat can join us as well, and Sparma, because he's the one who brought this up. But it and like Jalen Duren has showed a ton of passing chops as a big, so I would trust him more than a lot of other bigs to grab the offensive rebound and make the right read as he's surveying where everyone's at. So I think it's a good thing. And over like I understand the critique of Angel Reese a bit more because she's a lot more inefficient at the rim. But I think Jalen Duren, if he does grab his own miss, he has shown in the past that he's able to make things happen. And although we don't have the stats to back it up, he's likely able to make a pass to lead to another shot eventually. So it, I'd love to have these numbers, but because we don't, it's just something that we have to look out for next season.
Two things before we move on. This is from our guy Al Blues. It says, I don't know what source would track that, but from memory, he doesn't think that Jalen Duren scores much off of his own misses, which is exactly what we're talking about. And for the record, that's my memory of it as well. And then on top of that, so going back to Angel Reese quickly, the result of that original work of research, if memory serves, was around 16% of her rebounds, her total offensive rebounds, are coming from her own misses. Now, I was able to find a very weird source from a different era of internet that tracked the 2003 to 2004 regular season and got a percentage of offensive rebounds off of that a player would get from their own misses. Yes, guys, we did dive that deep in looking for an answer to this, which we unfortunately didn't find.
Ben Wallace was in this group just to show you how far back it went.
Yes, Ben Wallace was in this group, and he was actually, I think, top 15 in the league for this percentage, for what it's worth. But again, so that 16% number in 2003 would be top 4. It would be the 4th highest in the NBA back then. And that's in an era where everybody's playing far closer to the basket than they are now. So, like, my point is that the number for Angel Reese that she's getting critiqued about, and I know this isn't an Angel Reese podcast, I don't even really follow the WNBA, but that number wouldn't be unusual in the NBA, is all I'm saying. It would be on the high end of the league. She wouldn't be leading the league. It's not a ridiculous number.
Hey, that's a good point. I actually wrote about Angel Reese maybe like a month or two ago with this in mind.
Drop where that is, so if the people really want to know, they can go read it.
I will put it in the chat right now. It is for Her Hoop Stats, which in my humble opinion is the best stat site for women's basketball. But yeah, essentially, like, what I was looking to do with that was look at her rebounding numbers and using Stephen No's research on how many of those are off her own misses, just saying that she's still having one of the elite and best rebounding seasons in the league's history. And then going a little bit into her like shot percentage, where she's effective from the field and everything like that. But like Wes said, from this 1 year of data that we have from the NBA, Angel Reese, who we know is having a tougher time at the rim compared to Jalen Duren, and more likely than not rebounding more of her own misses than Jalen Duren is. Like, I would bet, with no research behind it, that Jalen Duren would probably be much lower on this list and be maybe somewhere in the 8 to 10% range.
Yeah, I was gonna end up guessing like middle of the league, right? I just don't think that it's gonna be an outlier type of number, even if we could find it. Let's close out with these two. I'm gonna lump these two together because they're both basically talking about Marcus Sasser. So here's the first one. Yeah, I know. Hot topics here.
We haven't talked much Marcus Sasser, so I'm excited.
And that's for a reason that I think is going to get sussed out here in our response to this question. But he says, this is from Michigan Dragon, says, there's been a lot of talk about not having a true backup point guard on the roster this year. Who was our primary backup point guard last year? And then the follow-up to this is from Baked Over. It says, how many games will Marcus Sasser play this season? Over under 27. So for both of those, I'll kind of flip them back and forth here for our live viewers so you could see them periodically. What do you got? Who were the backups last year, and then how much is Sasser playing?
Yeah, we chatted about this a bit before we came on air, but the answer we came to was Marcus Sasser was the Pistons' backup point guard last year. Depending on the time, that might have changed. Like when Malachi Flynn was brought in at the trade deadline, he played a lot of backup point guard. There was also Monte Morris for the 6 games or whatever it was that he played as a Piston after he was hurt and before he got traded. But primarily, it was Marcus Sasser. In terms of whether Sasser will play over under 27 games this year, this is a tough one just because we have a ton of questions on what the plan is for a backup point guard on this team. We've talked a ton about what we think the rotation is on this podcast. And I think in all of the rotations that we brought up, Marcus Sasser wasn't included in any of them. But that said, like Marcus Sasser at this time is a depth piece, not necessarily a rotation piece. So I think as injuries happen, as we're trying new things, like shoot, even if he is brought into a blowout one way or the other at the end of a game, if we're just talking strictly over under games played, it ticked in the box score stat, I would lean over, just because things happen. But that said, I don't think he'll necessarily have a rotational role. Like I'm trying to find Kevin Knox played in 31 games for the Pistons last year. So
Kevin Knox ended a losing streak of 28 games, Blake.
he did, but like Isaiah Livers played in 23, Stanley and Moody 24. So I think I think we'll see more of Sasser when we think. It's just when we're planning out our 10-man rotations, he doesn't fit in, which is fine. He's like a depth guard. I don't know what his future is in the team, but I don't know. I think he'd play in more than 27 games. I could be wildly wrong. I don't know, but I'm interested to hear what you think.
Well, just quickly before I do that, going back to who was the backup point guard last season, I can feel the Killian Hayes tingle on the back of my neck from the listeners probably screaming it at their car radio right now at the moment. And that's only because we mentioned Killian Hayes for a few minutes here, just like, I don't know, 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, whatever on the podcast. But here's the thing with Killian Hayes. He started 31 of the 42 games when he was in Detroit. He was not the primary backup, probably at all. If at all, it's for 11 games. Whereas Marcus Sasser played 71 games and only started 11. So yeah, Marcus Sasser was the backup point guard last
And
season.
he probably shouldn't have been the backup point guard either.
No, he really probably should not have been. And he wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be Monte Morris,
Yeah.
and naturally that didn't work out. As to the over under 27 games played for Marcus Sasser this year, um, I agree. I'm going to take the over. This is basically, to me, this is kind of like you described. This is blowouts plus injury games. So I went and I looked at Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, and Malik Beasley, who are kind of the three main guys ahead of him. You could throw Tim Hardaway Jr. in there as well because I do expect that he's going to play. But Jaden Ivey played over 70 games both years. He's not much of an injury risk, but he has missed some games, so it has to be mentioned there. Cade, though, through the 2 seasons that he played, without getting it extremely cut short due to injury. He hasn't gotten to 70 games played yet. Malik Beasley last year played 79, but he does have seasons of 37, 55, 62, and 21. These guys, I'll pull up Tim Hardaway Jr. here in a second, but these guys are not Iron Men at all. They can be. And Tim Hardaway Jr., I'm looking now, he's got seasons with 51, 57, 65, 42. They're not Iron Men. That's the point. So I'm betting that there's going to be a decent amount of missed games due to injury, buy any of the four guys ahead of Marcus Sasser, and Marcus Sasser is going to get to play in those games where that happens, plus blowouts in either direction if the Pistons are down a lot or if they're up a lot. And that's kind of the beauty of this roster right now, right? Like Marcus Sasser, he wasn't a bad player for this team last year. He's a decent backup point guard option. He's probably not the best in the league at anything or anything crazy like that, but he was solid last year. He was usable last year, especially if you were able to structure his role in a very specific and isolated way, just to kind of mitigate his streakiness. So the fact that you have that guy waiting in the wings, if one of these guys goes down with an injury, that can just step up and fill in right away, that's a luxury. I think that's a luxury the Pistons haven't had in a while. So I think this is a positive, even though it's not looking like the best use of a late first round pick at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, is there a deal at the deadline that sends I mean, no one freak out, but that sends Jaden Ivey elsewhere? Like, is someone interested in Malik
Or just a
B?
vet move, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr. If either of those guys get traded, Marcus Sasser's up unless you get a guard back.
yeah, and I think Trajan Langdon would much more rather have draft capital come back to him. I mean, yes, have to make the money work if you're sending out Hardaway's expiring as opposed to Beasley's. That's much more manageable. But even like, if my memory serves me correctly, when Malachi Flynn was brought into the roster, he was like the third guard on the roster, and a bunch of the waves had to happen, like the player moves after the Pistons brought back a ton more players and took on money. But Malachi Flynn, injuries happen, and he was thrusted into a backup point guard role for a bit to the end of the season, but he still played in 24 games, averaged 14 minutes a game. So I think that just, and that's only after the trade deadline when he was brought in. So like, that provides a little bit of a path to me to where we can see Marcus Sasser in games, as opposed to just like thinking he's going to get DNP CD'd every night. We don't think he's going to be in the rotation, but like you said, things are going to happen somewhere along the line. Unfortunately, not everyone is going to play 70 plus games. So there will be opportunities for Sasser. Who knows what it looks like in the long term in Detroit, but I think this season he'll have chances to play.
And just my final thought before you can respond, and then we'll get going on our way this evening. But I obviously agree with you with the over. I think he's definitely going to play more. I'd be remiss though if I didn't point out we should be a little cautious using last year's game
Yeah.
played data because they didn't almost set a record for most guys to suit up in one jersey for no reason. There was a little bit of a let's throw this idea at the wall and see if it sticks sort of attitude from then coach Monty Williams. Maybe to his credit, maybe not. I don't know. I go back and forth on that a lot. But the fact of the matter is, like Kevin Knox started quite a few games for the Detroit Pistons, ended up being waived, I think, after the trade deadline. Or no, he was traded at the trade
Yeah. In
deadline.
the Fontecchio deal, I think. And then he got waived.
And then he got waived, right? There are a lot of the guys. Stanley Amude, I don't think he's not on the roster anymore. And he was just on a two-way, and he got what did you say, like 25 games?
29.
29? Yeah, there was
24. Sorry, everyone.
Let's just say the rotations were helter skelter. All right, they involved anybody who could breathe and walk and dribble a basketball, and it changed wildly night to night.
Yeah,
And that led to some really bizarre numbers on the 30-some guys that suited up for Detroit and the number of games they ended up playing. Overall, though, I'm with you. Over on Marcus Sasser due to injuries and due to blowouts.
yeah.
I just had to throw that in there.
I'm with you, but maybe we're surprised and there's really not much for him to go on, or
that would be a good thing.
Yeah,
that would be a good thing. It means everyone stayed healthy.
Yeah, or he could even be included in a trade if someone is interested in him. We did have one quick last question that I'm only throwing to you that came to me on Twitter. It's from my dad.
Oh no.
So shout out to Robbie Silv on Twitter. He asks, did Wes like the Bagley trade? He posted an old highlight of Cade to then Motown Marv. Does he miss him? So we talked about this earlier. You mentioned that it's easy for Cade to develop chemistry with everyone. There were some exciting Cade to Bagley lobs, but I need
Oh
you
man.
to let us know right now. Do you miss Marvin Bagley?
I do not miss Marvin Bagley. That was a series. It was 2 tweets, and I have to admit both of them were rather petty, but I had fun in making the joke. There's just this section of Pistons fans that I was poking fun at that basically use the chemistry that Duren and Cade have in the pick and roll as like a reason to be super excited about Jalen Duren's future, not just a reason to be, excited about watching Pistons basketball this upcoming year. And those are two very different things to me. And so when I saw some of that conversation going on Twitter, I then clipped together some James Wiseman highlights of Cade Cunningham in the pick and roll. And I was like, wow, James Wiseman's chemistry with Cade Cunningham is through the roof, guys. This is incredible. And then I basically used the same wording for the Marvin Bagley highlight package that I found on YouTube of the same exact thing of just him catching lobs from Cade Cunningham. The only point was that Cade can get a chemistry with any athletic big man who works hard and rolls to the rim hard. So, like, yes, be excited about Jalen Duren because he's a very athletic big. Cade's going to throw him some lobs. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited to watch it. It just doesn't mean much long term. You can swap him out for James Wiseman, and you're going to still see some fun lobs. And that was the extent of the analysis.
Yeah.
But no, there was no Marvin Bagley reminiscence going on. It was all kind of subtweeting for a joke. I was just having fun.
Yeah, and to be clear, Jalen Duren definitely is the most athletic and has the most upside of those three. So
Yes.
He's
Agreed for the record.
Great pick and roll partner for Cade, but yeah, there were some exciting plays with Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman too, not minimizing any potential that Jalen Duren has. But Wes, I'm happy you cleared up that you do not.
Well, it's just that none of that stuff factors into the potential that Jalen Duren has. The potential that Jalen Duren has are as a short roll passer, as a dribble handoff guy, maybe in the future as a guy that can grab and go on a rebound, and then obviously on the defensive side of the ball. None of this has anything to do with his ability to dunk the basketball when Cade throws him the ball near the rim. Like, that's baked in. We got it. It's great. It's fun. Let's enjoy that and then watch the other stuff and hope, basically.
For sure. But hey, I'm happy we cleared up that you do not, in fact, miss Marvin Bagley or his contract, I'm assuming either.
I missed the nickname. Motown Marv. That was pretty great. That was pretty great.
I think if I'm not mistaken, he did have some sort of family tie to Detroit too, which was cool, but I don't really remember exactly. But yeah, that was a great nickname. Wes, before we close it out, do you have any final thoughts before we maybe go enjoy some football tonight and eventually the Lions when they play this weekend?
I do not. I'm just excited that sports are back. It's going to be fun. In 6 weeks, like I think it was Derek Brown said, we'll get some Pistons basketball, some new Pistons content to talk about. That's going to be exciting. I can't wait for that. But in the meantime, I mean, let's just see the Lions go, 5-0 because they got a bye week in week 5. So there you go. Go Lions in the meantime.
Let's do it. No pressure at all. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Shout out to our guy, Josh from South Dakota, for the voicemail question. We always appreciate you and the great questions. A reminder, everyone can call our phone line to ask a question, hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. And special thanks to our guy, Sean Corp, the managing editor over at Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. And shout out to you guys again for all the great questions and talking points tonight. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you.